Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza is brought to you by Sport Relay. Honest, unbiased, and apolitical. Sport Relay, your connection to the diamond. And by A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volumes 1 and 2, by Evan Thompson. Relive the glory. A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs.
This week on Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza, Meltdown Anatomy and Deadbolt Delivered for Week 24. The Week 24 Team Power Rankings. The Week 24 Relief Rankings of Playoff Hopefuls, all in one tight, convenient little package. The Week 24 Individual Power Rankings, and a visit with our special guest, Tim Healey from the Boston Globe. Don't go away. Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza begins now. Welcome to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. I'm your host, Evan Thompson, Editor-in-Chief, National Writer, and Athletics Writer at Sport Relay. I also wrote these two books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1, The Pre-Divisional Tiebreakers through 1976, and Volume 2, 1977 through 1984. Volume 2 also includes the 1978 AL East Tiebreaker, also known as the Bucky Dent Game, and the 1980 NL West tiebreaker between the Astros and Dodgers, also known as the Joe Niekro Game. If you are interested in ordering a copy or two, or three, or four, or five, or whatever, there are links in the description box below this video. There is only a week and a half left in the regular season. Magic numbers are getting smaller and smaller. The Cubs clinched a playoff spot this past week for the first time since 2020 to join the Brewers and Phillies, the latter of whom clinched the National League East on Monday. We are filming this on Thursday the 18th after the completion of all games, and the American League West is currently tied. And the two teams that are tied, the Mariners and Astros, are facing off in Houston this weekend. The American League Central, which the Tigers led by 10 games on September 3rd, is now a competitive race. Since beating the Yankees 11-1 on September 10th to take a 9.5 lead in the American League Central, the Tigers have lost 4 of 7, including each of their last 3. Those 3 games were to the second-place team in the AL Central, the Cleveland Guardians, who swept them in Detroit to close the gap to 3.5 games, with 10 games left for the Guardians and 9 for the Tigers. The American League East and National League West are both still close, as the Blue Jays and Dodgers each have a 3-game lead over the second-place Yankees and Padres, respectively. And in the National League Central, the Brewers' magic number, as of right now, Thursday night, end of play, is 4. There are a likely 4 teams duking it out for that third and final wildcard spot in the National League. 3 others are still alive, but 1 will need an outright miracle, and 2 others will need a lot of help. Baseball is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. Now, let us take a look at some top stories from the world of relief pitching. For our top story, we've got a tale of 2 disasters. One a single-inning train wreck, the other a 9th-inning seesaw of shame. First, a relief unit that couldn't get out of its own way in one brutal half-inning, then a game where the home team melted down in the top of the 9th, only for the visitors to say, "Hold my rosin bag," and blow it even worse in the bottom. 2 games, 3 meltdowns, 1 segment you won't forget. It's time for another edition of Meltdown Anatomy. Let's start in Toronto, September 13th, where the Orioles took a 4-2 lead into the bottom of the 9th with a 90% win expectancy. 7 batters later, they were walking off the field on the wrong end of a comeback. Keegan Aiken got the first out, but a bunt single and throwing error cracked the door. Yennier Cano kicked it off the hinges, and Alejandro Kirk slammed it shut in the Orioles' faces. Meltdown Anatomy, bottom of the 9th, Baltimore at Toronto. The situation is this. The Orioles are up 4-2 with Keegan Aiken starting the inning versus the 5, 6, 7 hitters. The trigger point. Davis Schneider's deep flyout brings the Orioles within 2 outs of victory, But Dalton Varsho's bunt single plus throwing error on the pitcher puts the tying run in the box. In a 2-run game, a free 90 feet is a leverage gift. Cano inherits a runner in scoring position and never recovers. Here's the cascade sequence. Ernie Clement's single advances Varsho to third. Joey Loperfido RBI single makes the score 4-3, puts the tying run in scoring position, and puts the winning run aboard. Andres Jimenez RBI single ties the game at 4, and there is still one out. Up next is George Springer. Catcher's interference! Now the bases are loaded. Up comes Alejandro Kirk. Sacrifice fly. Blue Jays walk it off for a 5-4 victory.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
The Orioles allowed 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. 1 earned run was charged to Aiken, and 2 runs, only 1 of which was earned, were charged to Cano. There were 4 hits. There were 2 errors. And the win expectancy drop was 90 percentage points. The Orioles entered the inning with a 90% win expectancy, and in 7 batters, they lost the game, so theirs was down to 0. Because again, in win expectancy, the only time win expectancy is 0 or 100 is at the very end of the game. Again, it's a reference point. That's it. We don't need a stat to tell us that. Goose egg, broken egg, and meh. It was a double whammy because both of those pitchers entered with the lead and a chance to get a goose egg, and both of them gave up earned runs. Broken egg for Aiken, broken egg for Cano. As bad as that was, then came the main event. A 9th inning so wild, it needed 2 meltdowns to tell the story. This actually occurred the day prior, September 12th in Minneapolis. The Twins led the Diamondbacks 6-4 with a 92% win expectancy heading into the top of the 9th. By the middle of the inning, the Twins were down 8-6. But by the end of the inning, the Twins had won 9-8. Meltdown Anatomy, top of the 9th. Diamondbacks at Twins. Here's the situation. The Twins are up 6-4. Cole Sands is on the mound to close, and he opens the inning up facing the 9, the leadoff man, and the second hitter. The trigger point. Tim Tawa's leadoff double immediately chopped 8 points off the Twins' win expectancy. Sands then plunked Geraldo Perdomo, putting the tying run on base with nobody out. Ildemaro Vargas grounded into a force out at second, beat out the relay throw to first, so stayed out of the double play. Now runners are on the corners with 1 out. Up comes Corbin Carroll. RBI single, it is 6-5. And Gabby Moreno, a 3-run homer to make the score 8-6 Diamondbacks. With that one swing by Moreno, the Diamondbacks' win expectancy jumped by 63 percentage points. Blaze Alexander grounded out. Jake McCarthy singles. Jordan Lawler grounds into a force out to end the inning.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
4 hits allowed, including a home run. Broken egg for Cole Sands. The Twins' win expectancy cratered from 92% to 9% in the span of 5 batters. 5 runners reached base. They did so via double, hit by pitch, 2 singles, and a homer. Oh, but it's not over. Meltdown Anatomy, bottom of the 9th. Diamondbacks at Twins. Here's the situation. Diamondbacks are up 8-6. Jake Woodford starting the inning versus the 8, the 9, and the 1. Jake Woodford is in the closer committee at the time. Now the closer is pretty much Andrew Saalfrank, but at the time it was a closer committee, and Jake Woodford was one of them. This is part of why he's not in it anymore. The trigger point. Cody Clemens' leadoff home run cut the lead in half and sliced 11 points off the Diamondbacks' win expectancy. A single and a hit by pitch put the winning run on base with nobody out. So let's go through the sequence. As we mentioned, Cody Clemens' solo home run made it 8-7. Edouard Julien, singles. Byron Buxton, hit by a pitch. You never want him on base. The guy, even after all the injuries, is a greyhound. Austin Martin walked. Bases are now loaded. In comes Andrew Saalfrank to relieve Jake Woodford, who did not record an out. Saalfrank doesn't fare any better with the leadoff batter. Trevor Larnach walked to bring in a run and tie the game. And then rookie second baseman Luke Keeschel belts a deep fly to left center field. Alec Thomas does run it down and catch it, but it's so deep Byron Buxton could crawl home if he wants. It's a walk-off sacrifice fly. Twins win 9-8.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
Andrew Saalfrank inherited 3 runners, and 2 of them scored. Jake Woodford got a broken egg. Saalfrank got a meh because both runs that scored with him on the mound were inherited from Woodford. Woodford faced 4 hitters and retired none and was charged with 3 earned runs. The Diamondbacks' win expectancy this inning plunged from 91% to 0% in a span of 6 batters. They did not record an out until the last play, which was a walk-off sacrifice fly, so the out was meaningless. 3 half innings, 3 collapses, and 3 reminders that in baseball, the last 3 outs can be the hardest and the most brutal. The Orioles watched a 90% win expectancy slip away in 7 batters. The Twins turned a 92% lock into a 2-run deficit in the top of the 9th, only for the Diamondbacks to torch their own 91% edge minutes later. Different parks, different relief units, same cruel truth. Momentum doesn't merely shift, it can vanish in a heartbeat. Now for the most dominant team relief performances of the week. It's time for Deadbolt Delivered, where we honor the relief units that slammed the door and threw away the key. Here are this week's door slams. Real quick, for those who are new to this segment or have forgotten since the last episode, to get a door slam, stat I invented this season, a team must close out the game with at least 3 consecutive goose eggs. This string must be completely uninterrupted. There cannot be any broken eggs in there, there cannot be any mess in there, and there can't be any situation where the score differential is such that the pitcher doesn't get any of the 3. It must be goose egg, goose egg, goose egg, bang, 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 at least 3 in a row to end the game. Why is this important? If a team gets a door slam, they completely shut the opponent down en route to a narrow victory. When the last outs are on the line, it's lockdown only. The door slam celebrates those nights when the back end doesn't just protect the lead, it shuts the door, throws the deadbolt, and walks away with a key. On Thursday, September 11th, there were 2 door slams. Grant Wolfram, Cade Stroud, and Keegan Aiken locked down the Baltimore Orioles' 3-2 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Jeremiah Estrada, Mason Miller, and Robert Suarez combined for the San Diego Padres in a 2-0 shutout of the Colorado Rockies. Friday, September 12th, also saw 2. Drew Pomeranz to Brad Keller to Andrew Kittredge to finish off the Chicago Cubs' 6-4 win over the Tampa Bay Rays. And Joey Lucchesi to Ryan Walker to Joel Peguero, who delivered for the San Francisco Giants in a 5-1, 10-inning win over the Los Angeles Dodgers, capped off by Patrick Bailey's walk-off grand slam off Tanner Scott. Saturday, September 13th brought 1. Eric Sabrowski, Hunter Gaddis, and Cade Smith for the Cleveland Guardians in their 3-1 win over the Chicago White Sox. Sunday, September 14th was the busiest day of the week with 5. Connor Pilkington to Jackson Rutledge and Clayton Beeter, who sealed the Washington Nationals 4-3 win over the Pirates. Matt Festa to Gaddis to Smith, who gave the Guardians their second of the week and in as many days in a 3-2 win over the White Sox. Tommy Kahnle, who recorded 2 goose eggs. And Will Vest closed out the Detroit Tigers' 2-0 win over the Miami Marlins. Tyler Rogers, Edwin Diaz, and Ryan Stanek finished the New York Mets' 5-2 10-inning win over the Texas Rangers, punctuated by Pete Alonso's walk-off homer off Luis Curvelo. And Jorge Alcala, Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, who locked down the St. Louis Cardinals' 3-2 win over the Milwaukee Brewers. On Monday, September 15th, Lewis Varland, Jeff Hoffman, and Braden Fisher, who got 2 goose eggs, carried the Toronto Blue Jays to a 2-1, 11-inning win over the Rays. Talk about gutsy, man. And finally, Wednesday, September 17th, saw Yaramil Giraldo, Rico Garcia, and Keegan Aiken slam the door for the Orioles in a 3-1 win over the White Sox. Here is a table breaking it down by team. In summary, there were 12 total door slams league-wide. The Guardians and Orioles led the pack with 2 apiece. September 14th was the busiest day with 5 door slams. Those were obtained by the Nationals, Guardians, Tigers, Mets, and Cardinals. September 16th was the quietest day with none. And the National League had 6 teams, and the American League had 4 teams on the list. Coming up, the team power rankings. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. It is time for the Team Relief Corps Power Rankings for Week 24. These rankings include every pitch thrown in relief by a player wearing their team's uniform, excluding position players, from the beginning of play August 1st, which was the day after the trade deadline, and the end of play on Wednesday, September 17th. We are using this starting point because a lot of teams' rosters changed dramatically at the trade deadline, and this way we will get a better idea of which team's relief unit really is the toughest nut to crack as we head toward October. This table shows the scoring breakdown. Teams are ranked in clutch, run prevention, base runner prevention, and command, weighted as shown. The final score determines the ranking. 0 means right at league average. Positive is better than average. Negative is below average. A score of 100 means the team is 100% better than league average. A score of 50 is 50% better. A score of negative 50 is 50% lower, and so on. Each whole number equals 1 percentage point. We will start with the number 30 team and work our way to number 1. American League teams will appear in red. National League teams will appear in blue. The first number in parentheses after the team name is their rank within their league, and the number after the comma shows the change in their major league rank between the Week 23 post-deadline rankings and the Week 24 post-deadline rankings. Here we go. First, a look at what the power rankings would be if we included the full season. The column with pluses, minuses, and NC, which doesn't stand for North Carolina here, it stands for no change, indicates the change in full season major league ranking since Week 23. And now the post-deadline rankings, which are also the official power rankings for Week 24. Our first group is pray for a blowout win. At number 30, the New York Mets, slipping 1 spot with negative 16.9. Number 29, the Toronto Blue Jays, inching up a spot with a score of negative 15.9. Number 28 is the Minnesota Twins, down a spot with a score of negative 13.3. And number 27 is the New York Yankees, who rose 1 spot with a score of negative 12.6. Next is stock up on Tums. At number 26, the Los Angeles Dodgers, tumbling 5 spots with a score of negative 7.1. Number 25 is the Pittsburgh Pirates, holding steady with a score of negative 5.7. Number 24, the Los Angeles Angels, down 2 spots with a score of negative 4.5. And number 23, the Chicago White Sox, falling 4 spots after scoring negative 3.0. In lots of work to do, we have 4 teams. Number 22 is the Texas Rangers, nudging up a spot with a score of 3.1. Number 21 is the team they beat 2 years ago to get their first and so far only World Series championship, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who dropped 3 spots with a score of 5.3. Number 20 is the San Francisco Giants, who climbed 4 spots with a score of 5.6. And at number 19, the Baltimore Orioles, who slipped 2 spots with a score of 5.8. We normally call this next group slightly below average, but the score difference between it and the lowest ranked team in the next group is such that this week we'll simply call it below average. It only has 1 club this week, and this club is the number 18 St. Louis Cardinals, down 4 spots with a score of 8.5 in the average. Number 17 has the Miami Marlins, a team that surged 9 places with a score of 14.1. Number 16, the San Diego Padres, up 4 places with a score of 14.6. Number 15 is the Tampa Bay Rays, down 3 spots after scoring 14.9. And at number 14, Pete Rose's number, the Cincinnati Reds, down 4 spots after a score of 15.5. Slightly above average has 3 teams. The number 13 Milwaukee Brewers, unchanged at 19.0. The number 12 Washington Nationals, dropping 5 spots with a score of 19.2. And number 11, the Kansas City Royals, fell 10 spots with a score of 20.7. Not a good week for the Royals pen. The good also has 3 teams. Number 10, the Detroit Tigers, down 5 spots with a score of 25.9. They really miss Kyle Finnegan. Number 9, the Colorado Rockies, who jumped 6 spots with a score of 27.1. And number 8, the Philadelphia Phillies, down 4 spots with a score of 27.6. The very good is a duo this week. Number 7, the Athletics, vaulting 9 spots with a score of 30.8. And number 6, the Chicago Cubs, up 2 spots with a score of 30.9. Better Take an Early Lead features 4 relief units this week. Number 5, the Cleveland Guardians, who climbed 6 spots with a score of 32.8. Number 4, the Seattle Mariners, up 2 spots with 33.8. Number 3, the Boston Red Sox, who rose 6 spots with a score of 35.7. Now, in my interview with Tim Healey later, they hadn't made this run yet. They had a really nice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this past week. And number 2, the Houston Astros, inching up 1 spot with a score of 39.8. And finally, the Outliers. At number 1, once again, the Atlanta Braves, holding firm and dominant with a score of 54.7. The biggest gainers in this edition are the Athletics and Marlins, both up 9. The Red Sox, Guardians, and Rockies, all up 6. The Padres and Giants, both up 4. And the Cubs and Mariners, both up 2. The steepest drops came from the Royals, down 10. The Tigers, Dodgers, and Nationals, each down 5. The White Sox, Reds, Phillies, and Cardinals, each down 4. And the Diamondbacks and Rays, each down 3. Here is each team's post-trade deadline score overall, separated by league and split into the 4 categories. This is the Excel spreadsheet I use when I make the rankings. Between the team name and the clutch column, we've included door slams. That column is labeled DS. Before we end this segment, here is a look at 2 scatter plots. First, the full season scatter plot for week 24. And week 24 post-trade deadline, which we use for our actual power rankings. And now, for the segment we're doing this month for the Team Relief Corps power rankings of all the playoff contenders, all packaged together neatly in one tight little scene here. What I'm going to do here is give you their rank within their specific league. It's their league-only rank because the playoffs are only within their specific leagues. So, this week I'll do the National League teams first. First, the division leaders. These scores will be in order of since the trade deadline first and for the full season. Okay, the Milwaukee Brewers, who lead the National League Central. Since the trade deadline, they're 6th, and for full season, they are 8th. The Phillies, who have clinched the National League East, are 3rd since the trade deadline and 7th on the full season rankings. And the Dodgers, who currently lead the National League West, are 14th since the trade deadline and 11th in full season rankings. For the 3 teams currently in wildcard position, the Cubs are 2nd since the trade deadline and 2nd for full season. It's the 2nd for both. The Padres, 8th since the trade deadline, but 1st for the full season. And the Mets, since the trade deadline, are dead last, 15th. But for the full season, they're 6th. Keep in mind, for a lot of the early part of the season, they were in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. So they've taken quite a tumble. Now, I've listed 4 teams that are still alive, although the 4th that I'm listing here is highly unlikely to make it because they will need to win out and get a lot of help. First, the Reds, who hold the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks. 7th since the trade deadline, 10th for the full season. The Diamondbacks, 12th since the trade deadline and 14th in the full season. And then the Giants, 11th since the trade deadline and 4th for the full season. Now the Cardinals, who again, highly unlikely, 10th since the trade deadline, 9th for the full season. On to the American League. The Blue Jays, who lead the American League East, are 15th since the trade deadline and 10th for the full season. The Tigers are 6th since the trade deadline and 8th for the full season. They have not had Kyle Finnegan, one head of their 2-headed closer monster, all month. He had a rehab start tonight in Toledo, which is not a long car ride from Detroit at all. It's just barely over the border, over the Michigan-Ohio border. But they haven't had Kyle Finnegan all month. He had a rehab tonight in Toledo. If all goes according to plan, he will be activated this weekend for their series against the Braves. The Mariners, who... Okay, the American League West is tied, according to the tiebreaker right now, since the season series between the Mariners and the Astros is tied at 5 games apiece. It goes to intra-division record, and the Mariners have a significant advantage over the Astros in intra-division record. So they have the tiebreaker right now. However, they play each other in a 3-game series this weekend in Houston. The winner of that 3-game series will get the tiebreaker. So it'll be interesting to see. So for now, Mariners are in first place in the American League West. They're third since the trade deadline and third for the full season. The wildcard teams, the 3 teams currently in wildcard position. First, the Yankees, who are 13th since the trade deadline and 13th for the full season. The Astros, who are first since the trade deadline and 4th for the full season. And the Red Sox, who are second since the trade deadline and second for the full season. Now, the teams that are still in it. The only one that's realistically still in it is the Guardians. They are a game and a half out of the wild card and have won 7 in a row after finishing their 3-game sweep of the Tigers earlier tonight. They are 4th since the trade deadline and 1st for the full season. Now the Rangers, losers of 4 straight and fading fast out of the picture, are 10th since the trade deadline and 7th for the full season. The Royals are technically still alive, but they're 7 games out with 9 to play, so they'll have to win all of the rest of their games and hope for a miracle. They're 7th since the trade deadline and 6th for the full season. Up next, our special guest, Tim Healey of the Boston Globe. Don't go away. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. With me here is someone I've been friends with since 2021. Been trying to get him on the show all year. It's finally worked out. Tim Healey from the Boston Globe. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you very much for having me, Evan.
You and my son share a name, by the way. So Tim's
it's a great name, so congratulations to your son.
Thank you. Thank you.
And an excellent choice by you, I should add.
Thank you. I'd say I named him after you, but he was 7 when I met you, so that would be a lie.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
All right, so Tim is a veteran. When I met Tim in 2021, he was at Newsday covering the Mets. That was a fun series. It was the game where Josh Rojas picked a fight with Marcus Stroman right in front of the Mets dugout. I remember that. That was an interesting night. But anyway, you had already been at Newsday 3 years covering the Mets. Before there, you covered the Marlins for, looks like, parts of 3 seasons. And then in May this year, you got to go back home, sort of, to Boston to work at the Globe with a tremendous sports department. How has that felt so far?
It's felt awesome, and it has been awesome. Covering the Red Sox for the Globe was always sort of that dream job that sounded too silly to say out loud as a dream job, and here I am in that job. So I'm definitely still pinching myself. It's a great team currently, as well as an epic sports section historically. So I'm very fortunate and very happy.
Well, these 2 books right here, I wrote them, The History of the Baseball Playoffs. The Boston Globe was my go-to for many of those games, and not just
Excellent.
games involving the Red Sox. I mean, they were the go-to. You're sitting in a desk that was filled by legends. Peter Gammons,
Yes.
Bob Ryan. You get to work with Peter Abraham, who's one of my favorite people in baseball. I'm very happy for you, slightly envious. That is awesome. So,
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been going great so far.
You're welcome. Let's go to the season now. You were covering a really good pen in New York before you left. They've had a lot of injuries hit them. They've fallen off a cliff. Edwin Diaz is also wearing out. I think his shoulders are going to wear out from carrying that pen as much as he did. But we're not focusing on the Mets. We're looking at the Red Sox. The Red Sox, since the trade deadline, their pen ranks 5th in the American League behind the Mariners, Astros, Royals, and Tigers. Keep in mind, I still have to enter 9 games from Saturday and 14 games from yesterday. My show from last week is still in the editing process, so I'm a bit behind. Full season, Red Sox are 3rd in the American League behind the Guardians and the Mariners. What have your observations been about the Red Sox pen, just in general, since you've arrived?
It's been interesting because, as is the case so often, it starts in the back end. And Aroldis Chapman has been as good as about any reliever in baseball this year, pretty much. It was funny that he, in two consecutive recent appearances, allowed a run. And it was like, whoa, he allowed a run and allowed hits in consecutive outings. That's so crazy because before that, he had gone a month and a half without even allowing a hit. So now he's up to 3 runs over the past 3 months in total. So Chapman has been dominant, which is why the Red Sox gave him that contract extension for 2026. Another, $13 million dollars or so for him in a long and successful and lucrative career. And then his primary setup man has been Garrett Whitlock, who since early July has a 0.35 ERA, which is incredible. And he has shown some major guts lately. This is his first full season in the major leagues in his life, and it's taking a toll physically, as it tends to do for a lot of guys. So with Whitlock and Chapman, the Red Sox are in great shape in a lot of innings, and then sort of piecing it together prior to them.
Off the top of my head, I might be mistaken. I'm pretty sure I'm not. Last week's rankings, Garrett Whitlock, we had him number 1 in the American League for setup men.
Wow, I absolutely believe that. He's been excellent, excellent.
And given the fact that Lucas Erceg, with the season he's having, is second to Whitlock, I think that says a lot too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, September, the Red Sox, they took 2 of 3 from Cleveland, 1 of 3 from Arizona, here a few miles from my house. Then they took 2 of 3 from the Athletics, which is impressive given the fact that the A's since the All-Star break are 29-13 as of today.
Yeah.
And then 1 out of 3 from the Yankees, but that one win against the Yankees seemed like a pretty gutsy win. I didn't get to see the game. I'm sure you were covering it. What happened in that game?
Yep. It was, the Red Sox went up 6-0 in the first inning and then didn't score the rest of the game. Garrett Crochet struck out 12 guys in 6 innings. But allowed a couple more home runs, which has been a problem for him lately. So by the end, the Red Sox won 6-4. They held on. It was going to get dicey, but Whitlock and Chapman nailed it down late, so there were no issues.
There you go. We used goose eggs.
Yep.
They both got goose eggs. That was
They did.
2-run lead, no earned runs, both of them. Bang, bang.
Yep. Bang, bang.
So the Red Sox now are 82-68 as we're filming this on Monday. 82-68. They're 5.5 games behind the Blue Jays, who lead the AL East. They're in third place. They're only a game and a half behind the Yankees, though, who are in second.
Yep.
Yankees also hold the first wildcard spot right now. And they have the tiebreaker over the Yankees.
Yes.
Because they went 9-4 against the Yankees this year. Am I correct on those numbers?
They did, yes. That is
Okay.
all correct.
All right, now, the remaining schedule for the Red Sox. Tomorrow, they host the team I cover remotely for 3 games. I've covered them 16 games in person.
Okay.
St. Louis last week, still recovering. That was quite a trip. But anyway, they host the A's tomorrow through Thursday. Again, A's are 29-13 since the All-Star break, so that's not a cakewalk by any means.
No.
Then they go to Tampa Bay for the weekend series, Friday through Sunday.
Yep.
They go to Toronto after an off day, have a Tuesday through Thursday series against the Blue Jays. That should be a barn burner. And then they close the season at home against Detroit. Now, Detroit will probably have clinched the AL Central by then, but they aren't going to be coasting because they're probably going to be playing for seeding. So there is no break for the Red Sox from here to the end of the year.
Correct.
What are the goods and bads of that from your perspective and from what you've seen through your years covering baseball?
The bads are they have their work cut out for them because the Red Sox have not exactly been in tip-top shape the last few weeks. They've really, really missed Roman Anthony and have struggled to score ever since he strained his oblique. And he will not come back in the next couple of weeks. Probably would not play in the first couple rounds of the playoffs. So they're going to have to figure out how to survive without Roman Anthony, who has been perhaps their best player until he got hurt. That said, they should be able to take a series from the Athletics, who they saw last week in West Sacramento, and the Athletics, as good as they've been over that stretch, as you said, they looked bad. They didn't score, they didn't pitch well, They didn't score. They didn't hit well. They didn't defend well. They didn't even coach well. There was one of the worst sends by the third base coach that I have ever seen that cost the A's a big run, and I believe the second game of that series. So it's this week is definitely easier than next week. So the Red Sox have to take advantage of two lesser teams in the A's and the Rays. Because next week it's Toronto, who's going to be looking to probably clinch the division next week. And then, of course, the Tigers, who, in addition to playing for seeding, as you said, they're going to be throwing, I would think, Skubal and their other one or two best pitchers because they have to set those guys up to pitch in the division series the ensuing weekend. So, they're not going to be in the wild card round. They're going to, they're going to be loading up on real games before that probable layoff during the wild card series. So, yeah, the Red Sox are in a good spot to make the playoffs. They have a 3-game lead over the Rangers at the moment for a wild card spot, but it's not a guarantee quite yet.
Okay, so I'm thinking back to 2023, the last year I covered the Diamondbacks. They ended the season hosting the defending champion Houston Astros for 3 games.
Interesting.
Lost 3 close ones, but, me being a former coach, I asked Torey Lovello if playing the defending champion and having it go the way they did could help them going into the playoffs. He said yes, because it exposed some problems that we definitely need to fix. They went on to win the pennant. So, looking at it from that standpoint, with the Red Sox closing the season against the most likely top 2 seeds in the American League, that could be something good going forward from that standpoint. What do you think about that?
Well, anytime you become more battle-tested, that could pay off in the future. That said, the Red Sox have to worry less about, learning from losses and things like that than gaining wins because they're also looking at seeding right now. They're either going to their 2 most likely outcomes going into the final 2 weeks are being the 5 seed, which would mean visiting the Yankees in the first round, that best of 3 wild card series, or being the 6 seed, which would mean a long flight to Texas or Seattle for a best of 3 in one of those spots. So, and then if they manage to win the best of 3, going to Toronto or Detroit. So there's a lot going on for the Red Sox still, a lot of moving parts. The rotation is not particularly settled. So they've got an uphill climb of sorts these next 2 weeks. Never mind the weeks beyond that.
Right. Yeah, the main point is they got to win the games to get in the playoffs in the first place, definitely.
Exactly.
And you mentioned that flight to Seattle. Just flying from Boston to where I live in Phoenix, I felt like I would never get here.
I know.
Boston to Seattle is as far apart as 2 teams in the league are. I think the only 2 teams that are farther apart are the Mariners and Marlins, and even then, it's not by much. Boston's a lot farther east than a lot of people realize.
It's a long way. You never really think about how big the country is until you're flying across it, I always say. So I've done quite a bit of that this year, so I'm kind of rooting for the New York matchup. That would be much easier for me.
Definitely. And then from there, Boston to Toronto is not a bad flight, and neither is Boston to Detroit.
No.
Am I correct on that? Okay.
That's all easy. So if we can just avoid the hassle in the first round, we'll be set up well the rest of the way.
There you go. Well, I'd like to focus on Chapman a little bit more. We're getting close to the end of our session here, so I'd like to talk about Chapman a bit more. When he gave up that leadoff hit to Shea Langoliers.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He had gone 50 straight outs without allowing a hit. He did walk some guys in there, but he had gone 50 straight outs without allowing a hit, correct?
Close to it. 50 consecutive batters, 46 consecutive outs.
Okay.
So he did have some walks mixed in, but either way, he was approaching his second consecutive no-hitter over the course of a couple of months during that string. So it was, it was interesting to hear Alex Cora, the longtime manager, compare Chapman right now to Eric Gagne in the early 2000s, who had as dominant a run as a reliever has ever had. Won the Cy Young in '03, I believe. Of course, we found out later was probably on steroids. So that, is a dark mark on that run. But just from a dominance perspective, it's been pretty incredible. And it's the BBWAA is introducing next year a reliever of the year award for the AL and the NL to go along with the Cy Young. And it's almost a shame that it didn't happen this year, because had it been the case, Chapman would have had as good a case as anybody.
It would have been either Chapman or Andres Munoz. That's
Yes.
just the way it is. And in the National League, it would probably be Edwin Diaz, with his closest competition being... Nah, he doesn't have any close competition. It would be Edwin Diaz.
There you go.
So, yes, when that reliever thing broke, we were jumping for joy here. Were you one who voted in favor of it, if you don't mind me asking?
To be honest, I voted against it.
Okay.
I just view adding a BBWAA award as such a huge, huge deal. And the BBWAA has not added a major award since the 80s, when the Manager of the Year award came to be. Before that, it was, the Rookie and Cy Young award decades prior. So I voted against it, but now that it exists, I'm kind of getting jazzed up about it. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, Manager of the Year was 1983. I was alive, you were not. And then, but I was small. And then prior to that, the last BBWAA award they added was also the last award they added for a player, and that was the Cy Young, and that was 1955. So, to put that in perspective, my mom was one.
Yeah, wow. Pretty incredible. So it's a very rare occasion that an award such as this would come to exist at all. So it's in that sense, it's kind of cool to live through and be part of the history in that sense.
Yeah, that's good. Now, also with Chapman, I tweeted this, and I wasn't mocking Chapman, because I would never mock that guy. I met him once when he was with the Royals and they came through here. Rex Hudler personally introduced me to him, and it was, I don't know how he is to cover, but in that 2-minute encounter I had with Aroldis, he was one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. He was just a great dude.
That's awesome.
And then, but I wasn't dancing on his, oh, there's a crack in the armor. I was mentioning how impressive it was that the A's actually did what they did, because that was not only his first hit since July 23rd, first earned run since July 23rd, but as you alluded to earlier, the last earned run he gave up before that earned run against the Phillies on July 23rd was on May 27th.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Is this guy human?
The best guess is that he is human, but it's hard to be sure. It's hard. It is hard to be sure. It was funny when he gave up runs in consecutive appearances last week, his velocity was down. And his velocity was down across 4 appearances in September. And yesterday before the game, I wrote just a little story about, his velocity's down, the Red Sox aren't worried, here's what they said, blah, 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 here's some stats. And then he pitches the 9th inning and he touches 101.5 with multiple pitches. So if there were any questions, there's the answer. Velocity's just fine for our oldest Chapman.
Did you give him bulletin board material? Was this kind of like a reverse hex or something there?
I wasn't the only reporter to ask him about his velo, so maybe he did take it personally in that sense and came out firing, in which case, you're welcome, everybody.
Now, in that span, he did, the automatic runner did score against him on June 9th against the Rays, but that's not an earned run because it's the automatic runner in the 10th inning. So
yes,
we do want to put that caveat in there. People are like, hey, no, we're telling the full story.
We're talking earned runs.
We're talking earned runs.
Not nonsense runs.
So going forward, Red Sox have that tough schedule. Yankees are playing a 4th place team, and then they have 3 series in a row against last place teams. So you really can't worry about what the Yankees do, though, right? The Red Sox really need to focus on what they can do and the stuff they can control, correct?
Yeah, I mean, ideally the Red Sox would like to catch the Yankees, but they're a game and a half back at the moment, and as you said, the Yankees have the much easier schedule, so that seems unlikely at this point. Not impossible, just unlikely. So if the Red Sox just take care of business on their end, the chips will fall where they may.
There you go. Well, that's about all the time we have. One final question here. For fans who haven't had a chance to really see the Red Sox yet,
Yeah.
when they see the Red Sox play, what can they expect to see out of that bullpen?
The bullpen is going to piece it together. The names are not brand names always. It's not always going to be the most sexy. It's not a super bullpen by any means, but as you've noted with your variety of stats, they get it done more often than not. It's Chapman in the ninth, Whitlock in the eighth, occasionally flipped, but not a lot. And then before that, it's a mishmash of, there isn't a clear seventh inning guy, but they have Justin Wilson as a lefty. Steven Matz has been really good since coming over at the trade deadline. Greg Weissert isn't pitching in a ton of high leverage spots, but his numbers on the season are good. Justin Slayton has not been good since returning from the injured list, but if he returns to form, boom, there's your other high leverage guy. So they have a lot of guys who have been pretty good, even if nobody has been quite at the level of Whitlock and Chapman, which is, granted, a hard level to reach.
Right, and when Slayton went on the IL at the time, he was either, I don't recall specifically, I do know he was either third or fourth in the American League setup men in our rankings. So, yeah, he did have a great season prior to then, and I have noticed, like you mentioned, that since coming back, he's not quite back to form yet. You think he's still may not fully be over the injury yet?
I think he is over the injury. It's just, one, relievers are a crapshoot to begin with. And two, after such a long layoff, he missed 3 months, half the season. It can take a little bit of time to round back into form, as you said. So he's got 2 weeks to figure it out.
There you go. Well, Tim, it's been a treat having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on, my colleague and my friend. Look forward to when our paths cross again in the future.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to watching the A's more this week.
There you go. We'll be right back, so don't go away. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. It is time for the individual power rankings for Week 24. Statistics include every game through the end of play on Wednesday, September 17th. To qualify for the rankings, there is a minimum of 29 relief appearances, and for the Goose Egg Broken Egg Plus statistic, which forms 2/3 of the clutch category we use to rate setup men and closers, there is a minimum of 14 Goose Eggs plus Broken Eggs. As always, the full breakdown of our ranking methods can be found in the link in the description box below this video. And a note on the roles: if a team is using co-closers, according to the closer depth chart on Fangraphs, we list both as closers. If it is closer by committee, we list all members of that committee as setup men. Here we go. We begin with the American League middle relievers. Number 10 with 13.9 from the Guardians, Matt Festa. Number 9 with 14.8 from the Royals, Taylor Clark. Number 8 with 15.8 from the Rangers, Cole Winn. Number 7 with 15.9, also from the Rangers, Chris Martin. Number 6 with 20.0 from the Astros, Stephen Okert. Number 5 with 22.0, again from the Rangers, Danny Coulombe. Number 4 with 24.2 from the Rays, Griffin Jax. Number 3 with 28.6 from the Yankees, Fernando Cruz. Number 2 with 33.1 from the Mariners, Gabe Spire. And number 1 with 34.0 from the Toronto Blue Jays, Braden Fisher. Now the National League middle relievers. Number 10 with 9.4 from the Mets, Gregory Soto. Number 9 with 10.1 from the Phillies, Tanner Banks. Number 8 with 10.2 from the Diamondbacks, Jalen Beeks. Number 7 with 11.4 from the Brewers, Grant Anderson. Number 6 with 16.4 from the Braves, Pierce Johnson. Number 5 with 19.3 from the Padres, Jeremiah Estrada. Number 4 with 20.2 from the Cardinals, Matt Swanson. Number 3 with 23.0 from the Dodgers, Jack Dreyer. Number 2 with 28.7 from the Cubs, Drew Pomeranz. And number 1 with 32.8, also from the Padres, Adrian Morejon. Now the American League setup men. Number 10 with 49.5 from the Blue Jays, Sir Anthony Dominguez. Number 9 with 61.8 from the Yankees, Luke Weaver. Number 8 with 87.1 from the Astros, Brian King. Number 7 with 87.4 from the Mariners, Matt Brash. Number 6 with 94.8 from the Red Sox, Justin Slayton. Number 5 with 98.6, 98.6 from the Rangers, Phil Maton. Number 4 with 99.8 from the Guardians, Hunter Gaddis. Number 3 with 106.1 from the Royals, Lucas Erceg. Number 2 with 129.0 from the Mariners, Eduard Bizardo. And number 1 with 134.5, also from the Red Sox, Garrett Whitlock. Now the National League setup men. Number 10 with 59.6 from the Braves, Tyler Kinley. Number 9 with 62.1 from the Brewers, Jared Koenig. Number 8 with 67.0 from the Braves, Dylan Lee. Number 7 with 72.4 from the Cardinals, Jojo Romero. Number 6 with 72.7 from the Mets, Tyler Rogers. Number 5 with 85.0 from the Phillies, Matt Strom. Number 4 with 95.1 from the Reds, Tony Santillan. Number 3 with 100.1 from the Marlins, Ronnie Enriquez. Number 2 with 101.9, also from the Marlins, Calvin Fauché. And number 1 with 148.1 from the San Diego Padres, Mason Miller. Turning now to the closers, first in the American League. Number 5 with 128.4 from the Tigers, Will Vest. Number 4 with 130.2 from the Astros, Brian Abreu. Number 3 with 156.0 from the Rangers, welcome to the rankings, Sean Armstrong. Number 2 with 162.4 from the Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman. And number 1, once again, with 231.6 points from the Mariners, Andres Munoz. Finally, the National League closers. Number 5 with 116.6 from the Phillies, Joan Duran. Number 4 with 129.3 from the Cubs, Brad Keller. Number 3 with 149.7 from the Pirates, Dennis Santana. Number 2 with 155.4 from the Padres, Robert Suarez. And number 1, once again, with 186.4 from the New York Mets, Edwin Diaz. That concludes this installment of Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza from Sport Relay. Join us next time when we will go through Week 25. I'm Evan Thompson. Thanks for watching, and we will see you then. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Click subscribe so you'll never miss an episode of this show or of our other show, Trade Trees. Tell your friends and baseball contacts. If you haven't done so yet, consider buying my books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1 and Volume 2. There are links in the description box below this video. And finally, bookmark and regularly visit sportrelay.com. Until next time, this is Evan Thompson saying so long for now.